The use hook is the most unique hook in React because it does not follow all the rules of hooks. For example, you can be able to use the use hook inside conditions or even inside loops. But like other hooks, you must use it inside a functional component and not a class component. And in this video, we will cover everything that you need to know about the use hook so that you can start using it in your React projects. So first things first is that this use hook came with React 18 and it is not ready for production. So it is only available in React Canary and experimental channels. So avoid using it in production because it might have breaking changes anytime, okay? But it is very interesting because it simplifies a lot of stuff. For example, we use it to consume a promise or a context. So just like the use context hook, you can use the use hook to consume a context. And now it is even better because you can make use of it inside conditions or even inside loops, which is not possible with the use context hook. And let's see an example where we make use of the use hook with context. So here in React docs, they have just a very simple example here. They are consuming a theme context. We import the use hook from React just like that, and then we pass the theme context and we get the theme, just like with the use context hook. But the good thing now with this use hook is that we can use it inside conditions or even inside loops, which is not possible with the use context hook. Now, another thing about this use hook is that you can use it to consume the promises and you get back your data. So I have an example right here, which we consume a promise with the use hook. So first things first, here we are fetching with the use effect hook this data right here. And this is the list characters component right here. So when making use of the use effect, we call the hook, we set the states for loading, for error, and then we make the call right here with the fetch API. We pass the URL, we get a response, convert the response from JSON, and we get our data here, and we set the data. If we have an error, we set the error, and we remove the loading state whenever all this process has finished. So this is how we could fetch data normally with the fetch API, and then we set the states for each of them like that. And down here we display the loading state, and also we display the error if we have any, and here we list the characters. So this is the normal flow when fetching data in React and making use of the use effect to fetch the data whenever the page loads. And as you can see right here, we are making use of about 40 lines of code to accomplish this. But with the use hook, this is much easier. Like you can see in this other component, we are also fetching data with the use hook, but now right here we have just 15 lines of code instead of 40 that we had before. And the first thing that I'm doing right here is to import the use hook, and then right here we will set our characters to be equal to the use hook. Then we pass a promise, and this use hook will be able to wait for that promise to be fulfilled and return our data. So we are using it here the same way like you will use the await, async await, okay? We just call use, then we pass a promise like that, and we get our data. And then all we do right here is to map through the data and show it on the UI. But you might ask yourself, how do we handle the loading state, or how do we handle the errors? So in React 18, we have something we call the suspense component. So we need to wrap this particular component with the suspense component whenever we make use of the use hook. So I'll come here, go to app, and you'll notice that here I am wrapping the list characters with use with this suspense component like this, okay? And what this will do is that if the data is still being fetched, we have this fallback prop which will be rendered if it is still fetching, okay? And it will show this loading state right here. So this is how we handle the loading state when making use of the use hook, okay? And this helps us to avoid all that code, and we can have just an easy way of fetching the data like this. And now how do we handle the errors? So also with React 18, we have what we call the error boundary. So we have a component that we can create called the error boundary like this. And it's good to note that at the moment, the error boundary can only be created as a class component. So as you can notice here, this is a class component. But again, you don't need to worry about this because I think there is a library which you can just install and you don't have to create this component by yourself. Let me show you that. I think we can search here for error boundary, and I think we have it here, catch rendering errors with error boundary. You see this component right here. Just in React docs, you can get the syntax of creating this error boundary component, and then you just need to wrap your component with that error boundary and add a fallback. And I want to show you something. So there is currently no way to write an error boundary as a functional component. However, you don't have to write the error boundary class yourself. For example, you can use this instead. So this is a package which you can install, and then you don't have to write the error boundary component yourself. So you just install with npm like that. Then you can use that component to wrap whichever component you want to. But again, it's not like hard to create this particular component. Just from React docs, you can copy it the way it is, and that is what I actually did here. Just removed the comments, nothing much. And now how to use this to handle the errors when making use of the use hook. You just need to wrap right here with the error boundary component. So here we just say error boundary like that, and we pass the entire of this part in there. I save, but I should pass a fallback like this one. So I'll copy this one and I'll paste this one here, and here we can say an error when fetching data. So this is what will show if we have an error. Okay, I save. Now to test this, we can invoke an error by rejecting a promise. So this is a successful one. Let's duplicate this one and let me comment out this one. So then here I will reject a promise by just saying promise.reject, and I can say here error, just like that, and I save. Fetching data with the use hook here would fail, and then our error boundary would catch that error and we would see this particular UI. So let's see if that works. If I come back here, let's refresh here, and look, an error when fetching data, and that is exactly what we passed here. And whatever we are seeing at the console here, this error is what we included right here, this error message. So we can verify that by adding anything like this. I save and I refresh, and you see we get that error also. And you can handle this error inside this error boundary component. So this log is the one that is giving us this particular error. So anyway, this is how you can handle the error when you make use of the use hook to consume a promise. So we have this error boundary that will handle the error. Then we have this suspense that will handle our loading state. And then in our list characters, we just make use of the use hook. And now it's very easy to use with a few lines of code, unlike the other way of fetching the data with the use effect, which took us like 40 lines of code. So it's just a simplified way of doing it, okay? And as I told you, we can make use of the use hook inside conditions, okay? So right here, we can say, for example, let's create a constant of fetch data to be false to begin with, and then we will perform a check. If fetch data is true, that is when we will perform this action right here, the one that was fetching our Rick and Morty characters. Then let's remove these and let's remove the comment. So this is an illustration that you can make use of the use hook inside a condition. So in this case, fetch will be false, and therefore it will not be able to fetch this data. Okay, I think these characters is not defined down here, so we can create it as a variable. I can just say let cars, like that. Here we update cars. Okay, and here let's just use a question mark in case of anything, and let me save. So if we check now and let me refresh and I scroll down, look, we don't have any data because this fetch data is false. But if we changed this one to true and I save, and then I come back to our app, and look, it's now fetching the data like this because this fetch data is true. So we can make use of it inside a condition, unlike other hooks. Okay, so that is the use hook. If you liked the content, leave a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.